Hello and welcome to the Berkcast, the How to Train Dragon podcast. I'm your host HC, and with me are.
Rush 2112.
And Wolf.
And today we have a special guest, our first interview. Ice, the head of Berk's Fandom that we love to plug oh so much. Say hello, good sir.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for being here. We are happy to have you. So, are you ready to be asked some questions, good
I
sir?
am ready. I am ready.
Hopefully we don't scare you off.
I hope not.
Well, that's
but
a
I think
given.
it should be fine.
HC's here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Apologies
Did
to
you
all
hear-
listeners.
Did you hear something? Okay, never mind. Anyway, so Ice, first question. How did you get into the How to Train Dragon fandom?
Well, so this is I guess a long story. First of all, you can hear me, right? This is fine, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay. So I guess the first, I'm a programmer and a computer scientist. So,
You're
I
among
think
a
some of
friend
you
here.
are too, right?
Yes, I am
Um,
actually.
Right, and so you probably know, you can go on YouTube and there's some fairly decent programming, computer science type tutorial videos. And so this is in, I guess, the mid 2010, and I was on YouTube searching for some kind of video, and I typed in how to, and it auto completed Train Your Dragon. And so, you can't just not click on, especially when you're in this serious how-to mode, where you're looking for some quality educational material. You can't just not click How to Train Your Dragon. So that's how I just saw the trailer. I didn't know this for a while. I sort of didn't pay attention to it for a while after that. But then I was flying on a plane. I see all my films on planes, I guess. And again, I saw How to Train Your Dragon on the screen. And well, I saw the trailer. I'm certainly interested in how to train dragons. So I watched it, and it's one of these things where if I finished it and I was like, I could see this just once and be done with it and never think about it again. But if I see it a second time, I'm going to be obsessed with this film. And perhaps, unfortunately, I saw it a second time, and then a third time, and then a fourth time. And I don't know what count I'm on now, but that's how I got interested in How to Train Your Dragon.
Just to put this in perspective, I think I'm on 12 times.
Oh wow. Yeah,
I'm
I
on
don't know.
Uncountably infinite.
Yeah. When did you all get interested? Were you from the very beginning, or was there like sort of a moment?
I think out of the three of us,
I think HC was the first.
Yeah, I saw the first one when it came out in theaters. I also said that the trailer didn't really impress me, but I saw the reviews and I said, okay, I should probably try this, and I was a fan ever since. A part of the fandom was a bit later, around the time Riders of Berk was a thing, but
Right.
when I was introduced to it was the first movie.
Long story short for me, my girlfriend dragged me to the second movie, and I was a computer scientist at the time, and I was so enamored by the animation that
But
I
you are no
actually-
longer a computer scientist. You are just a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I actually wanted
I
to
got
do
that,
computer
right?
graphics, but
Mhm.
then I learned a lot of other things in college, or university,
sense.
and still kind of figuring out what I want to do with that. But it's a completely different story.
For me, it was I jumped into the fandom and the franchise pretty much at the same time, really, with Riders of Berk.
Yeah. So I think
And
there's
that's my
several
long
waves,
story short.
right? Yeah. So there's the first film, and then there's the TV show. I think.
Yep.
Several times for Riders, and Defenders, and then also for Race to the Edge, and then there's Dragon, and
And
possibly
there's the shorts.
yeah. Although I don't know how much they brought new people in. I'm not sure.
Well, not necessarily brought people in, but so they kept the people in.
That's true.
The
Yeah.
ones who were already in.
Right. And in fact, that was sort of the. It was I think Gift of the Night Fury was sort of start of the street. So this is when it was post first film, and no one really knew what was going to happen next. I think there's sort of a vague idea of the second film, possibly a TV show. I think that was being sort of floated around. But some of us found sort of these storyboards that were for this unknown, mysterious dragon piece of content. I think it was called, what was it called? I think How to Hatch Your Dragon. And it sort of started out as kind of this a bunch of kids sort of acting out this play, and it moved into a scene where suddenly all the dragons were going, and they were leaving Berk, and everyone was sad because their dragons were leaving. And that, if you recognize that, that's because it was Gift of the Night Fury. So this is a very, very early version of Gift of the Night Fury that we found online. Someone had just posted it, the storyboard at least, at the very beginning. And so that's, sharing that was sort of this is the first thing we ever really shared. That was sort of the first sort of dragon scoop we ever got, was we're Gifted the Night Fury. So I think that was sort of exciting. That brought people in as well.
That's really cool. So,
Yeah.
what was your inspiration for Berk's Grapevine? Hopefully, it wasn't an accident, like in a how-to video, how to create a website, right?
Yeah, no, it's all just an accident. Type some things in, and output was the website, and I was like, all right, let's go.
I accidentally
this
typed some
button,
HTML, and
this.
now I have a successful website.
Yeah. I guess. Well, I mean, partly it's sort of I can't do anything else. I have no skills. I can't animate. I can't draw.
Same.
I guess I can write, but
I
not
joined the
well.
club.
We can
Yeah.
code. That's all we
I
have.
can code, and I can write articles, blog posts type things, and I'm very good at finding things. So sort of the random places that I look are like trademarks. So I search trademarks, and there are a lot of kind of interesting trademarks, things that they've trademarked, dragon names, character names that kind of give you a little bit of an insight into what's going to happen next. And sometimes they post this. The trademarks are fun. Animators' blogs are fun. You can kind of see what they're working on, even if they're not showing exactly what they're doing, whatever they're working on. You kind of get a sense of, okay, this is where they're going. This is the next project they're working on. So these are the kind of things that as a fan I found. Piecing them together was, I think, kind of the inspiration. And also that I have no other skills. I'm skillless. Yeah.
Well, you only made a website. We are talking every week about this, so
That's
you're
true.
in a good spot.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very cool show.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You should do. There are a lot of people from DreamWorks actually who sort of are interested in talking about what they do. You should sort of reach out to them. That would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's
hear from
something
them.
I'm working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the biggest step we've had so far.
Yeah, baby steps. We start
was-
with other fans and
The story of
hopefully-
how I figured we talked about this, and I remember Wolf sending the message, and then it was 11 p.m. and I was on Tuesday last week, and I was working on my project with my group mate, and I was so annoyed at the project. I get my phone buzzes, and I'm like, oh my god, I was annoyed. It's my girlfriend was texting me. It's she's in East Coast too, so it was midnight there. I'm like, why isn't she asleep? I really need to focus. See, it's IcelandicEel. I'm like, oh my god, I have to answer this.
If we're putting this in perspective, I just woke up when I saw these messages, and I'm like, okay, I had a good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a hard person to nail down, though, by the way.
Yeah, I know, and I'm working on that.
We tried to reach him through Dragon Mail, it didn't work.
Dragon
Yeah, Terrible Tarot got lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
I blame
thought that we
HC. He
should-
didn't
I
train
thought
it very
that-
well.
I told him we should have picked the green one.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think
it's
you
all
trained
about
it
the
very
color.
well.
It's all about the color. Definitely.
Ironically enough, the blue one didn't do its job, and blue is my favorite color, so yeah, life sucks. Anyway, Wolf, you have the next question.
Talking about your inspiration for Berk's Grapevine, I actually have an interesting question for you.
Mhm.
Where did the name come from? Was it the first name you came up with, or were there others too?
Oh, there are others, and I don't really remember most of them. But I guess it's sort of this. It's tricky picking a name for these kinds of things because we
Mm-hmm.
both want it to be sort of recognizably dragon-esque, right? So people know that it's what it is. But then also something that's Googleable, right? Um,
Yeah.
uh, and I think Brooks Grapevine is kind of it's grapevine, so
It
it's a
sticks in your
hinting,
mind.
it hints at what it is about. It's sort of like a collection of people who are interested in certain topics, spreading rumors. Hopefully a little bit more research than just rumors, information about the show and films. Um, but then also, yes, it's Googleable. My one regret with the name, um, apostrophes, very difficult. Um, very difficult for domain names, um,
Hmm.
for account names. So that would, I don't know. Even like McDonald's, for example, doesn't have the apostrophe anymore, even though it probably should, right? Um, because it's just so hard um, for finding the domain names for that kind of thing. So I don't know. I think overall it's a good name, and
Oh yeah.
there's now uh, the next graphic novel coming out is called Dragonbite. Um,
Yeah, I actually thought
mhm.
about the connection when they announced it.
Yeah. Um, turns out it is actually a reference to the site. Yeah, which is cool. It's cool that it's sort of coming back into the weird name choice that was made many years ago is now kind of
Yeah,
slightly part of the actual canon material.
yeah. Can you imagine the newcomers to the site coming in and thinking, "Oh, he named it after the graphic novel. Cool."
Yeah, right. I'm sure some
Future
people will.
generations.
Yeah, it's probably it's a good name. Dragonbite's a good name. They probably spent more time thinking about that name um, than this one.
Yeah,
But
let's wait until we read the story and then see
yeah,
how it connects.
yeah, we'll see. I'm curious. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Okay, so next question. As the head of Berk's Grapevine, you're the one who posts all the articles on the site, the ones that inform people about
Mhm.
news, or release dates, everything that gets released to the public. So, what is the process of doing an article like this? What are you going through in order to
Huh.
publish something?
So I guess it depends a lot on the article. A lot of it is so I guess there's sort of like maybe three or so sources of information. One is from trademarks and random things that I find out, um, and that's always a lot of fun to post because it's usually the first time anyone's ever seen it. Um, and so the finding that there's a process to finding that. It's just sort of a lot of work. Um, watching things, putting like alerts on trademark sites, which I haven't actually done in a while. I should check those again and see if they're sort of starting to get ready for Dragon Fruit. Um, uh, but yeah, so there's sort of a lot of work that goes into that, and into those. Writing it is fine. It's, writing's easy, I guess maybe. Um, then there's sort of a lot of the stuff now. I try to get other people involved and uh, submitting things to the site because a lot of other people have cool sources of information and things that they know or things that they've read that I maybe haven't seen. Um, so it's always great to see submissions and things that other people send in. And of course, I credit people when they send things in as well. Um, I like that a lot, and I've been trying to sort of get other people involved in submitting things. Um, and then sort of the third source of material is from people at DreamWorks. So I think in general, the people at DreamWorks are at least compared to other sort of animation companies within studios in general, are really responsive, and they really provide a lot of information for us. And I think they really do care a lot about the fans, and keeping the fans interested and engaged. And so sometimes I get like little snippets of what's coming up next, or what we should expect, or I get to I get to talk with someone who worked on the show or graphic novels or the films. That's a lot of fun as well. The interviews are a ton of fun. I'm not a very good interviewer. I'm not a journalist. I'm a computer scientist. It's basically the polar opposite of what the sort of the skill set that makes a good journalist. So I'm not a good interviewer at all. But there are so many really interesting and creative people at DreamWorks that it really doesn't matter in the end. They still say really interesting things about what they're working on and sort of what the process is in making an episode of the TV show, or a graphic novel, or what they did on the film. Whether it's animation, storyboarding, or directing. So it's a lot of fun to talk to these people, and I think it's kind of a sort of a nice kind of backstage look at how a lot of people who go on this site, this is their favorite thing. I don't know how many people have more than one real core interest, maybe a couple, but this is the thing that they're really interested in. It's like a lot of I certainly enjoy talking to these people. I think a lot of people who read these interviews also like it. So I love doing the interviews. They're a lot of fun, even though I'm a terrible interviewer.
I haven't read a lot of them. I would say they're very insightful, and it's enjoyable to
We're not
see what
much
they have to
better
say.
right now, are we?
Yeah,
You're
to
good,
be honest,
you're good.
as someone who took a few classes about arranging interviews and heard someone ask this, as long as you don't ask the interviewer a question that goes like, "You're almost 50. Have you considered retirement?" You're good.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean,
But
I
you
guess
brought up
it's-
a good question, or
Yeah.
a good point. You said how they're all eager, and the DreamWorks people are all eager. I have two off-topic questions, kind of joking.
Uh-huh.
One, do you have any connections that you can reference us to? And
I don't know. Yeah.
two, how easy is it to connect to them? I mean, you say you get like these early snippets and you talk to them. How easy do they find you? Like, does that mean that they actually go on the forum find? Are they listening to us right
Yeah,
now?
mostly actually. Especially during How to Train Your Dragon 2, there were
A lot of them
definitely
signed up, didn't they?
sort of like secret DreamWorks people who were on the forum. It was really funny
Yeah.
and fantastic. So like, if you go back to that time and you search through the posts that were made, sometimes you see like these posts from people who have kind of suspicious names related to dragons.
Who is this Ding the Blonde one?
Yeah.
Oh, some of them, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, like some of them even talked about working on the movie and was like, "Hey, I'm someone who works at DreamWorks."
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, wasn't there an interview with one of the animators on Toothless in How to Train Dragon 2?
Yeah. He's one of the people who. So there are a couple of Toothless animators that ended up meeting. They're great. It was really, really fun to talk with these people, and especially there's the one animator who I ended up, I think there was an interview for this I ended up sharing, wasn't there? I think there was, at least. Very, very fun. It was, you hear these stories about how, when they were shooting or when they were animating underwater scene. So this is when Toothless is attached to sort of the harness and is falling underwater and can't escape, and Hiccup is under and tries to pull it apart, right? And I guess this is very hard to do, this sort of pulling motion or trying to get this to look accurate. So they actually went underwater and filmed underwater scenes doing this, like at a pool somewhere. And I think this is sort of a somewhat well-known story, but I got to hear it from the people who actually did it. And apparently, so I don't know, maybe this is just 2010 or 2009 or whenever this was, but you can't really take cameras underwater then. This is not a good thing to do. So they had to like hack together this camera system where they put the camera, I think, in a water bottle. I don't know. It sounds like a bad move, but I guess it worked out.
Yeah, from experience, getting a camera near the water is a nightmare. If you don't have any protective gear for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's I'm blanking on the name now, but there's a toothless animator for Gift of the Night Fury. I don't know if you've seen the video. It's where Toothless has the new tailfin that Hiccup made, and he's sort of swinging it around. And this was like almost frame by frame reference from the cat that the animator owned. Put like a piece of tape on the cat's tail, and the cat was swinging it around, trying to get it off. And this is sort of directly used to influence how Toothless looked. Yeah. So, we hear he's sort of a part cat, part rabbit, part dog, right? And in some
part
cases,
horse, part cow,
horse, right?
Part jaguar.
Cow, I don't know about that. A jaguar, yeah.
Toothless
I've
is
never heard
everything.
cow. I've never heard cow.
He's everything
just
at
came
this
out.
point.
He's everything. He's everyone's pet put together. No one's pet is not Toothless, right?
Although my
But yeah,
dog
in some
can
cases,
fly.
very literally.
Yet.
Right, yeah, of course. Yeah. No, but in some cases, like very literally inspired, frame by frame, from videos of animals. So that's kind of cool to see sort of the background of animation and Toothless.
Well, yeah, that kind of reminds me when Hiccup is doing like the shining light, like the kind of laser pointer cat thing. Like they add the little wiggle at Toothless's towards his tail, and that's exactly I've seen.
Totally
like,
a cat.
You notice animals do that, yeah, cat definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
And flight is very hard too. So I don't know.
We can
I
ask
think
our resident
we're super
animator Puff
spoiled.
about that.
We're super spoiled with the series and the films because the flight looks really good. If you look at
Well, yeah,
anything,
I took a graphics class last semester.
probably
and
tried,
oh my
yeah.
God, it's so difficult.
I don't know. I saw recently the third Harry Potter film with the hippogriff, and there's this scene where the hippogriff is just flying through the air, and I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to pinpoint this non-animated what is wrong with that, but it's just so wrong. I would have never noticed it. It's so spoiled with this amazing flight animation in How to Train Your Dragon. There's a flight school actually, so everyone who's animating Toothless went through flight school in a couple days of sort of playing with, I guess, animating flight and figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and how do dragons, right? And at the end of it, I got to see examples of this. Everyone got like a little, almost like driver's license saying, "I made it through flight school." So that's kind of funny. That it's so difficult that you have to actually take like a mini course at DreamWorks in order to even animate or even begin to animate flight. But it makes sense, right? It's hard. So it's fun to talk about.
Is there anything that you're really happy about that you did in the Vine or Grapevine? And then on the contrasting that, just like what are some really bad things that have either happened or that you're not happy that have gone over?
I'm not happy about. Okay, so happy about. I mean, I think a lot of the really fun experiences. So I guess there are sort of things that I like about this thing, and about like, the chat that I have. I think I don't know. I think it's actually one of the things that sort of separate from all of these things. I really enjoyed Dragon League. This was when I don't know if you were part of this. This is during the second film. And it was
Yeah,
of
right when the time the second film was coming out. I remember this.
Yeah. Where fans,
And how you did this. This was
it was
very
super
good.
fun. Fans all around the world would sort of say, here's like very vaguely where I am. Sort of put a dragon-themed pin on a dragon-themed map, and say, I'm willing to meet up with anyone who's around me. And so there were actually a fair number of fan gatherings, people who maybe even knew each other before, meeting up and seeing the thing together, which is super cool. And I was part of some as well. And I was in the Bay Area, near the Redwood City DreamWorks campus, which is now closed, but it was around too. And so I somehow convinced a couple of the people from DreamWorks who animated Toothless, actually someone who rigged Toothless as well, to come and watch the film with us. So I got this Dragon Meet group of Dragon fans, and then a couple of people from DreamWorks as well. We all watched it together and sort of talked about it at the end. It was a lot of fun. I thought Dragon Meet was really, really fun. And I hope I can do it again, the next film, and hopefully something a little more serious, where maybe there is sort of one maybe larger Dragon Meet where fans can come together in, maybe around the world as well, but in one very specific place. Especially since this is the last film. I'm sure it's not the end of all things Dragon, but the last film is special. We should all come together and watch it. I think that'd be fun.
This is one case where I hope you're wrong with your when you posted that Forumvine predictions. When the third movie, So, that third meetup, I'm part of the fandom now. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. Get together.
Can someone buy me a flight ticket?
Yeah, that's
I'll
hard.
be happy to be there. I
right?
just need to fly over to you guys.
Like, where do you put this? I mean, probably in the U.S. Like, you want to put it somewhere where you have like the center of mass of people.
I'd say
the globe, right?
I'd say
So
put it
probably
for
in the US.
where DreamWorks is.
Yeah, that's
because
what I
it'd be
was
nice
thinking.
if we can get most of like the executive or like the people who worked on it there too.
It'd be fun. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. And I think that is. I don't know if that's quite the center of mass of people. Probably the center of mass would be on the East Coast of the United States. But I don't know. I think that'd be a lot of fun to have it there in LA. And maybe get to talk with and meet with other people who made the film. Yeah, so future plans. I thought Dragon Meet was a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do it again.
Oh, we can only hope that this will happen.
Yeah.
What are some other fandoms or other things that you're into besides How to Train Your Dragon?
Yeah, because you did mention Harry Potter, so that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I consider Harry Potter to be like the fandom that I'm in. I think for many people it's like the gateway. It's the first thing that people are interested in. It's the first thing maybe they read through the entire series and they go and watch all the films. And now they're a fan. And I think everyone can kind of relate to Harry Potter, at least within this sort of generation of Harry Potter readers. It's sort of like a common ground that everyone has. It's everyone's starting fandom, for many people. Other ones maybe like Lord of the Rings. Is
I mean, a lot of us grew up with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what else. There are a couple, right? I think prior, maybe one generation before was Star Wars and Star Trek. Right?
Yeah.
That's sort of like the everyone had an opinion on that. That was sort of the center of fan activity, right? I don't know where that is now. It may not be Harry Potter. Maybe it is.
Like you said, you actually made a good point. The center of fandom, but right now there's just so many that there's no real center to it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's always been the case. Right?
But today it's probably bigger because of the internet.
The internet, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Although you have all these examples of people showing fan work, even before the internet. So especially with Star Wars and Star Trek, there are a lot of. I don't know. It's not exactly the start of fan fiction as an idea, but people were sharing their sort of homemade magazines with each other filled with fan work. Pre-internet, so it's kind of cool.
Comic-Con, that was a
Yeah.
big thing.
That's true.
Like that's where probably a
And
lot of stuff
con-
started
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, Comic Con and cons in general now. Every month there's like a con going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what the first fandom would be. I think the first sort of like modern fandom, maybe like Sherlock Holmes. So not the film or the TV shows or anything like the actual series.
Like the
The
book
books,
series, yeah.
Like the original
Arthur
series,
Conan
yeah.
Doyle, yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be. I don't know. I can't think of anything before that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, certainly there are instances where people are grouped together, gathered together by books, right? But not in the same way that we have. I don't know. Interesting history to fandom. I don't know if people have really looked at as much. Yeah.
Mm.
But as far as like what are my fandoms, I don't know. I don't. Mostly dragons. I think there are a couple of shows that people have like hooked me into. So like there's Miraculous Ladybug, which is it's an interesting show. It's definitely an interesting show. It's not the same kind of. I don't know if you've seen this. It's definitely not the kind of show that has the same sort of wide audience as How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, the story and characters.
It's a little weird. It's pretty
Yeah.
weird.
I haven't. I actually researched it because I remember it was such like a popular thing on the Grapevine when it came up, and I didn't want. I wanted to watch it, but I don't know about it. I haven't.
I've heard about the show, and the only thing I know is that I think the main character is voiced by Christina V, who does the voice of Shantae in the Shantae games. That's all I know.
I don't know much.
The animation is definitely something I would recommend it for. Like watching the animation in that show is very good.
It's pretty good.
The story and characters are kind of I'm pretty sure some people might take it or leave it and
It's a
say
little
that it's
silly,
very much
but
yeah.
I don't know. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But again, it makes me think how spoiled we are, right? Because this is considered good TV animation. I think it is. But then you compare it to like Race to the Edge, and it's just not even in the same category of quality.
Yeah, although Ladybug I think is on TV, Race to the Edge is on Netflix. True. I think Netflix shows had a bit of a bigger budget than
TV.
That's
true. I mean, if you throw money at it, it's going to.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, it's kind of funny how I mean, if you look at Riders of Berk and Defenders of Berk, you can tell that was very low budget on both ends. It was still good, but like there are obviously some animation errors here and there, more than Race to the Edge.
I think with those two, it's not so much that it's lower budget, or that it was a different process for Race to the Edge. I think there's definitely a change of making them now, that they have a little more flexibility, right? But
that's
I think
true.
It's sort of the evolution of the medium, right? That was Race to the Edge. Riders of Berk was sort of the first television show that's computer animated. I mean, it's not the first, but the previous ones.
On such a scale and level, though.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was. I think you can go back to that, and I wouldn't say it's like the same. I think obviously it's low budget, the film, right? But if you compare that to even animated films at that time, feature films, it's almost the same level, right? Like it's not quite there, but it's pretty close. So it's pretty amazing that they were able to put together something like that. I don't know when was that? 2012?
That note of TV shows based on movies. Anyone remember Jimmy Neutron?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen that, but I think
maybe it's my not so good memory, but I think the show had better animation than the movie did. I don't know.
Really?
That's what I remember.
Yeah, I mean,
like not by a lot, but
I've seen some of it. I don't know.
It's
been certainly
so
not
long since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's certainly not the same level, right?
Yeah.
It's like nowhere near
Well, you
writers
gotta
for
think about like the stuff they used to animate Toy Story, the movie back then,
yeah
can be
yeah
used for extremely lower price to
uh-huh.
animate TV shows now,
yeah
Yeah.
and that's probably what they're doing. I mean, I don't
mhm.
have any ins on the animation world, but
Right.
it seems like it's, if not they could do it better than
hmm
they did it.
I think,
But
I mean, partly it's the cost of computation is cheaper. Right?
no,
That's
absolutely.
definitely helpful.
But
Um, and the software as well. Um, it's weird going back and looking at what people used. If you look at like what DreamWorks used before How to Train Your Dragon 2, it was. I mean, I haven't actually seen it in action, but what I've heard is it was almost like editing a spreadsheet. So if you want to move your character, okay, find the right cell and edit it. That's how you animate.
yeah.
Horrible, right? I mean, this is not the interface you'd ever want to use.
I remember the
Yeah.
huge hubbub about the second movie was that
Yeah.
like Intel had their new thing that you could implement hand and the computer drawing together,
Mhm.
which made it like so
Yeah.
much easier to animate.
So there's
Mhm.
no, I think there's no motion capture for Change for the series. Although I think DreamWorks has done a lot in motion capture.
Actually, now that I think about it, wasn't there a special video where Barack Obama was at
Mhm.
the DreamWorks Animation Studio
Yeah.
and he saw the people motion capturing the
Mhm.
scene with Hiccup and Astrid?
Yeah, so they use that as like a initial reference. They don't actually directly use the motion capture data.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least what I've heard. Is that it's all hand animated, but with it's great if you can kind of like sketch out a scene, basically film it with like a virtual
You know
camera
what
with actors.
I really want now that they'll just get Jay Baruchel America for all of those actors in those motion capture suits and like do what they do with Uncharted and all those games and
Yeah.
just have the motion capture and the voices be the same thing.
Well,
Wouldn't it
so
be cool?
they use a lot of so if you want to see like what their motion capture, like pure motion capture looks like, a lot of the videos posted on the DreamWorks TV channel. So I don't know if they have any tracking videos like pick up or others talking, but they have other characters, and those are sort of pure motion capture. So it's kind of it's not quite the same quality, and you can tell there's a quality difference, but it's pretty good. Yeah. So actually, I was there and I got to see the motion capture studio that Obama was in. I got like the Obama tour.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was cool. It was very cool to see them kind of like working on actually filming one of these.
Okay, so next question is mine, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, who's your favorite How to Train Your Dragon character?
Favorite character? I mean, I guess there's Hiccup and there's Toothless and I guess Astrid. Astrid's more controversial. I think everyone wants Hiccup and Toothless. Most people like Astrid.
Have you heard our Astrid episode that we
No,
gone
I
over her
haven't.
character?
Mm-hmm.
You were right. She is very controversial.
Yeah. Among some people.
She's a fun
I-
character to talk about.
She is
though.
definitely
I
funny.
Yeah.
won't say
All the
she-
characters are.
I
It's not
won't
in the
say
bad
she-
way.
Yeah, I won't say she's controversial as much as the choices story
That
choices
they've done
done
with
with
her. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
so other than the three main characters, how about
Yeah,
that?
I can't pick those. I actually really like Balka. Balka's a very, very fun character, and there's some interesting background. I like her sort of as a person. I think she's interesting. I mean, I'd like to meet her. I'm kind of mixed feelings about her purely as like what she is, her character in universe. I think she's nice, but there's something a little weird and off about her, purely if you look at her in universe. But there's also this very cool history of how she's changed over the course of the development of the film that I think explains a lot of her character in universe, if you're allowed to bring those sort of things in. So I like her.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So from favorite character to favorite movie, here's the real controversy. Do you
Yeah.
prefer the first or the second?
This is hard.
It is.
I think I think a lot of people preferred the first, but I think there's also a lot of bias, right? People like that was sort of the initial kind of
That's what brought them in.
that's the thing that brought them in, right? So 100% of people who like How to Train Your Dragon 1 like How to Train Your Dragon 1. Of those people, there's like a chunk, I don't know how big, who just didn't really like How to Train Your Dragon 2. Of course, there are people who came in from How to Train Your Dragon 2 who said,
Like
"Oh,
me.
I can't imagine." I don't know if this is like you, but maybe who say, "I can't imagine, how these characters could be younger." You know, clearly,
Okay,
How to Train Your
that's not
Dragon.
like me.
How to Train Your Dragon 2 is the best film. I, How to Train Your Dragon 1 is okay. It's okay, right? But it's not. I don't know. So there are those people as well, right? Who came in. From
We need a
Dragon
new
2.
guest.
Right. Like for me, from my perspective.
No. Actually,
once
he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
say he's right.
Yeah, from my perspective, when I came in from the second movie,
Mhm.
I took the exact opposite. I'm like, oh my god, there's so much more. It's like I need to
Yeah.
watch it all.
That's
And so,
totally the other
I
perspective.
really, it's really like you're completely correct. It's super
Mhm.
hard. We
Yeah.
did our video on this. I think we spent 90% of the video arguing why we chose which one or like
Yeah.
what we could do. I can't even remember my choice. That's just
I
how
may have
back
seen
and forth
this
it
one.
is.
This is an episode.
Yeah, it's one of our
We-
earlier ones. It's one of
Yeah.
our very earliest ones.
If I remember this correctly, in the How to Train Your Dragon 2 episode, we asked which one do we prefer. Russian Wolf
Yeah.
said 1, I said 2.
Yeah.
And there is a future episode I'm planning at some point that will actually compare the two. Not necessarily in
Spoiler alert.
which one is better, but
Yeah.
in terms of technicalities and stuff. Maybe
Also-
we'll get more into it there. But
What-
for just for clarification, you said you preferred 2?
Oh no, I haven't said anything.
He hasn't said it. He was,
Oh,
he
yeah.
was just saying.
Yeah.
that.
Sorry.
No, but what I tell people.
I'm sorry, I
No,
really want
it's
someone to
okay.
be on my side.
No, but what I tell people is and I have like been saying this since Dragon 2 came out, is that you could literally show people an exact copy of How to Train Your Dragon 1 and call it How to Train Your Dragon 2, and people would still say they prefer the first How to Train Your Dragon 1. Right? You can't please everyone, even if you're showing them exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely hard to kind of compare the two, and when you see like polls of people saying which do you prefer, and I think generally people like the first one more than the second. I don't know how to interpret that because, where do you begin? Right? I don't know. I think it's very hard to compare the two, and it's very hard if you came in with one to compare the two. Which one do I like the most? That's hard. I definitely have sort of more memories. I've seen certainly the first one more, but I think the second is sort of I don't know. I think it's a really gorgeous one.
I mean,
Both-
yeah, we gave
both
you
the
like
story
we only
and-
gave you about 5 minutes to
Yeah.
answer this question. We had a whole episode
No.
to figure out
Yeah.
why we like
Yeah.
it. It's like for me,
So-
the animation,
Mhm.
silent, blah blah. blah.
So
but-
I may go with two.
Again, we need a new guest now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Kick it off.
he's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
although I think you just look at the story. I love the story of the first one, and
Hmm.
I think there's sort of a. I think I think the history of how we got to the story with the second one is really interesting. I would have loved to see the first version of the second film, because of like the changes
Yes.
with Baka, right, and the changes. with the
Absolutely.
story.
The entry
Um,
scene that was partially animated.
Which one?
There's the scene that was supposed to be at the very beginning that shows her freeing dragons with the alpha. It's not fully animated, but
It's the first
it's a
deleted
good-
scene on the
yeah,
Blu-ray.
first deleted scene on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have loved. I'd love to read the screenplay for that one.
Yeah.
If it's.
I've already made that comment myself on
Yeah.
this show, asking Dean directly, if you have the script and are willing to give it to me, I would love to read
Yeah.
that script.
I would.
We've
All
asked
the
a
way
lot
through.
of Dean. He probably blacklisted us.
No, but seriously,
Maybe.
that's like the one thing that I'd say this is what I would like. Because I think that would be super super fun to see.
It would definitely be interesting to read that and compare the two and see what you thought afterwards. Absolutely.
You know what? Better than read, they probably have this version of the script storyboarded somewhere. I would love to see the storyboards for it.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
they did do
speaking
test
of that too.
screenings, right? So it was partly finished. I mean, not maybe full animation, but storyboarded. So I don't know.
Well, you have to think they actually kind of relevant now. Didn't they recently, within the last months, finish the How to Train Your Dragon 3 storyboard script? They started animating or something?
Yeah, so I think
something
they
along
are.
that line.
I heard they are doing actual screenings now. I don't know how complete it is, whether it's still sort of the rough kind of storyboard type screenings, or if they actually have a fair amount of completed animation. I don't know.
You need to pull some strings with your old
Yeah.
DreamWorks buddies.
But I heard Dean saw, I think maybe the first time, I don't know, somewhat of a full screening. So I think it's getting there. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll find out in 2 years.
In a while.
Yeah.
Cries.
3.
Who knows
3,
how many
yeah.
years?
Who knows?
Maybe 5, maybe 10.
You know, I just before we started recording, I read that they delayed the Avatar sequel again.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, and I'm just praying that How to Train Your Dragon 3 won't be delayed
Yeah.
anymore. Just keep it at 2019, please.
My optimism is, if they're taking this long, it's gonna look fantastic.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. No.
Well, isn't this the one where they're essentially making the whole series at one time? So there are a couple of things now that are coming out, Avatar things, and they're making them all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're doing like the binge watching Netflix approach, which I don't know what your opinions on this are, but I like the weekly dragon shows more.
Yeah.
We talked
Yeah.
about this in the past, actually, and my opinion on it is, like, you enjoy it more, I think, because, looking back at Berk's Grapevine and how they used to do Riders of Berk and Defenders of Berk, like, you always had that interaction
they
every
used to
week
do,
between
yeah.
all of the fans, and how, in, like, the Discus comments, how you just have people going on, and I was a part of some of this, too, on just these huge, like, what-ifs, and this could happen,
Yeah.
and this could happen, and
Yeah.
this could happen. And it was just a lot of fun to do all of that.
And now we get people
But-
yelling to not spoil anything
Yeah, right.
for a good
Yeah.
week.
It's hard to coordinate.
But I do
Rush.
enjoy kind of the binge thing
Mhm.
a little bit more personally, though.
Yeah.
Just because it gives you... you can still have everyone kind of talk about, like, everything all at once in the kind of, like, hey, these is our all-together thoughts on the entire thing all at once now, instead of weekly trying to guess what will and won't happen. And I guess, personally, I enjoy that more, maybe because it
Yeah.
kind of fits in with my schedule a bit more.
Right.
Being able to just sit down and say, all right, I got a full day, popcorn, let's enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I feel like I can't really share it, so I can't post anything about it
Yeah.
until like, some amount of time has passed. I don't know how
I
long it
usually
takes
wait a
people to watch
week
it.
before.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it
I
takes
think-
me more than one day, certainly. I
Oh,
try
just got
every
myself.
time
I'd
to
finish
watch.
it all in one day.
I try every time to watch it as soon as it comes out, because it's always very late.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
there are some
I
people
prefer-
who actually have this thing called self-control and actually
Yeah.
space it out over 13 weeks.
I don't know how they do that.
I can
What
do
is-
it. If I know the entire show is available, I'll just watch it all.
I've never heard of this thing.
But see, it's not ideal because now you're avoiding spoilers for some of them.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. So Tart on Tumblr, he posted, he said, "It's been a month. Can we post How to Train Your Dragon spoilers now?" Something along those lines.
Which one?
Like after,
Dragon 1? How to Train Your Dragon 1? The film?
No, it was after the
Oh.
last season came out.
Yeah.
So,
Spoiler alert. The leg,
yeah.
he loses it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, speaking
Talking
of the
about-
show, yeah, you can
Yeah,
take
talking
Oh.
about the show, that's the next question.
Yeah.
Who has it?
Mhm.
I do.
Wolf, you can go.
What is your? Do you have a favorite season or episode of the show?
And this can include writers and defenders as
Yeah.
well.
So I don't know. I think this requires a lot of thought. But off the top of my head, the very first one I forgot the name for it. It's that I think it's called the Nightmare Fury. It's the one where
Let
do
me
you know
get
this
with,
one?
with Dagger on the island.
It's with Hiccup and Dagger. Yeah, that's
That
a
is the
crazy
Yeah, I
episode.
wrote that one as well.
I
Yeah,
think
I
a
think
lot of
we
people
chose
remember
that
that
one.
one. Yeah.
I think we all chose that to be our favorite
Really?
one from Defenders of Berk, because that is the second
I
season.
think as well I need to go back to that one.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
that just
and
shows
it's
you
weird.
how much that episode stands out.
I don't remember it that well, like the specifics, but I remember that it was really fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And then I guess there's
Um,
also another one that I like that I don't know what other people think about. I don't know what you all think about is the Heather Report. This is first time we ever got to meet
hmm
Heather, right? And I
Maybe
remember
she'd be a recurring character.
this is one of the this is one of the very early storyboards. Again, historical books, very early storyboards. Um, and this is how we sort of figured out. Oh, actually, the show is a real thing. It's going to happen. Um, and it was this Heather story, right? So where Hiccup and Toothless are flying around. Again, all these storyboards that are posted are ones that are rejected. So they're never actually in the story. It's the storyboard artist. It's okay. I just posted it on my site because I work on this. I want people to see it anyway. But it's a storyboard that was rejected. It's not the beginning of the show anymore, right? This is not how it opens. But it's Hiccup and Toothless flying around, and then they find Heather sort of lying in speech, right? So it's sort of similar. And it sort of ends. The storyboard ends with finding out what her name is, right? So we know her name is Heather. And I think it was really, really funny to see people react to this because you have, I don't know. So from the very beginning, there's this idea that there would be kind of these relationship, triangles with Hiccup and Astrid and Heather, right? So the very beginning. And the funny thing is that the people working on the show, they noticed this. They actually they realized that people were, whether they like her or hate her, are obsessed with Heather. And that I don't remember what the ratings were for that one, but a huge number of people watched the show, the Heather one, and continued to talk about Heather afterward. And so, although she was like this really weird character that probably was only going to happen, only showed up in a couple episodes, or maybe just one episode, I don't know. She was then written into every other season, and now has this really fairly major role in Race to the Edge, right? I think people like her now.
Yeah, she
More
was
positive.
upgraded to a main cast member.
Yeah. So she was there for a pretty large amount of the season, right? All because this totally random storyboard that was released that caused people to be obsessed with Heather.
That
I
she
think it's
is
also,
still
yeah,
controversial.
yeah,
In some
still
respects,
a little bit,
maybe.
a little bit. I think people like her, right, in general. Although I think it's also nice to have sort of a slightly more expanded female cast. With the first film, it was like Astrid, and it was Rocknut, and Gothi. So like 30 people, and then like miscellaneous. But the 3 people who have names, and one of them doesn't even talk, right? It's really 2 people, and then the other one we don't really know much about. Rocknut we don't know much about. It's really just Astrid. So in reality, it's like one female character in all male characters, many male characters. So it's sort of nice to see, at least in the TV show, slight correction with that, and adding a little more diversity to this cast of characters, even if it's just like one Viking, but a cool one. I really like Heather. I know she's controversial, but she's cool, and her dragon are both very, very cool. I love her dragon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, so you take this last question because you're the one who wrote it.
I wrote all of them.
I know you wrote all of them, but that means
No,
you
except
don't want
for
to claim
the-
responsibility.
point all
for this.
blame
I
to
need
DC
to-
if you have any issues.
I need to deliver the controversy, so here we go.
Yeah.
Ice, what is your How to Train a Dragon 1 true pairing?
Okay,
And
so this is one.
Why is it Hiccup and Dagger's Boots and Savage?
I
So-
asked Ice, not you,
Yeah.
Wolf.
A lot of people like Hiccup and Master, and I understand. Makes sense. A lot of people like random combinations of involving Barrett, and I understand that. Maybe less, but I understand that. My favorite is not any of these. And no one talks about my favorite, my OTP, which is sad. And when I visited DreamWorks, the Fandom campus, and I met a lot of the writers of the show, and someone asked, are these two characters going to get together? And this is like part of the like small group that I was part of. Someone asked, what about them? Do you think these two people are going to get together? And they're like, they just laugh. No, never, not going to. It's like, oh, come on, this is so obvious. This is the best pairing. Okay, Hiccup and Asher are good. I like them. They're fine, but you can't just not. You can't ignore this one. This one's great. So it's Toothless and Stormfly.
Stormfly.
They're great. Toothfly. They're fantastic.
And Rush exited the conversation.
You do very well with creating suspense and then
Yeah.
dashing my hopes quite expertly.
Who are you hoping for? Who are you hoping for? I mean,
Bravo,
they're
sir.
they're
Bravo.
fantastic. I love them. Gift of the Night Fury. There was definitely a Toothfly moment. You cannot deny this. When Stormfly was flying off the island, right, and Toothless was left behind because he can't fly. There is like this kind of communication between them for a moment. It was even in the storyboard. So it's a serious. It is in the storyboard that was rejected early on. And it made it to the series or to the short. Clearly, it's a core part of what happened in that short, right? Clearly, but no, apparently not. And then in the TV show, Race to the Edge, especially the last season, there are definitely two fun moments, and it's still
Well,
the
the second movie
writers-
had it as well.
Yeah, it's true, and yet the writers totally are ignoring it.
Yeah, bringing up Toothfly. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the chance to read the log line that we got for the third movie a little while back?
No. Oh, maybe. What was it again?
It was in the third movie. Supposedly, Toothless finds a
another Night
female
Fury.
Night Fury.
Right. I think they were a little bit
Not
vague about
necessarily
that.
Night Fury, but it
A
says
female
that-
mate. They don't specify Night Fury, but we assume Night Fury possibly.
I mean, I
All
think
of your
that's
So how do you feel
emails
about
have
that?
been noticed.
That assumption is speciest. You can't, just because he's a Night Fury doesn't mean he has to get together with Night Fury.
We brought this up in our episode too.
Night Natters, baby Night Natters. They'll have like the spines of the Natter, right, that they can shoot, and they'll have the fire of
Ironically,
the
Night
Fury.
Nadders was the name of the band I had back in high school.
See, it's fate. It's fate. It has to happen. It won't happen, but I'm still,
It could.
I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for this. I'm hoping they do it.
Well, maybe you will get your wish. So,
Hopefully.
is there anything else you want to ask him before we close?
Nothing that I would like to share with the stream.
Well, what are all of your favorite pairings? If not, and I can't believe it, if not Toothfly mean, what else could it be?
Well, you heard wolves. It's the boot
No,
dagger's boot
no.
hiccup hick boot.
Not
Yeah.
quite.
That's
Oh right,
Not
or
quite.
is it
Not
tough
bad.
chicken?
No. Again, you're missing one there. You have to have jealous savage on the side, or the ship's not complete
The
anyways.
triangle.
Mhm.
Yes, there you go. But for me, in general, I don't do ships.
Mhm.
Hickstrid, I am glad people enjoy it. Not for me. Toothfly, I'm glad you enjoy it. Not for me. I just don't do ships in general.
Well, you
For
have to
me,
pick
it's more
one.
so about.
You can't just like, you can't leave the question. You have to pick. You have to pick.
For me, it's
You know what,
it's
you-
more
Trust
about
me,
how
we've been
these
dealing
characters
with
work
this.
well together.
We've been
You
dealing
know,
with
you
this
make fun
for
of me
so
pandering to the
long.
audience. You just don't give a damn.
Yeah,
This
trust
is true.
Ice, we've been dealing with wolves.
Mhm.
You know, putting off the OTP question for so long. I mean,
I mean-
he does have if you listen back to when we asked him on the
Yeah.
Astrid episode, he has a very, very valid reason for why he doesn't care for Hickstrid.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's fine.
He does,
That's
we don't have to go
reasonable,
back to that. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then,
and
you
it's
gotta
not.
pick one.
You know,
right? I mean,
I've
if you don't
avoided
pick
up to
one,
this
if you don't
point.
pick one, I'm just going to assume it's too far. So, you know,
that
the
works
choice is
then.
yours.
If you, it's what you want to assume.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been, if these characters work well together, and they, and again, like in writing the characters in the story, you progress them into that relationship. That I'm
Yeah.
perfectly behind that.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm going to 100% just get behind all of a sudden. Like, oh, these two characters work great together on screen. They have to get together.
Yeah.
For me, that's
But Wolf, don't you
not what I
know
want.
that's shipping 101? Two characters
Right.
share screen time, they can be shipped.
did you watch Troll Hunters?
I have
Not
seen
yet.
Troll Hunters.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
haven't?
hmm I have. Yeah.
Yeah, Wolf, have you seen it?
yes, I have. I watched all that. Very good show.
Very
Highly
good.
recommend.
I've
Yeah.
been going back through it the past couple of weeks just because I wanted to watch it again. But
I would say
But
that's
yeah.
one of my. I mean, I don't know. It's like in a serious way. I like that show.
I do too.
Yeah.
That was I think a lot of people liked that show. But back to the main point. I guess I asked that for you like Claire and Jim, so maybe you could say that's your OTP then. Different show though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I still think there's not enough to make a judgment about that.
I'm an expressed Hickstrid shipper,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mhm.
not much to say otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
HC.
Okay. You know, I'm going to say something that probably will come as a surprise, but then you'll think about it and you'll see how much sense it makes.
Mm-hmm.
Stuik and Valka.
I like them. I mean,
Okay.
it's. I mean,
As long
You
as they
can't
don't
say
sing.
you can't say they're your favorite OTP if you don't call them their shipmate. God, that's shipping
That's a
102
Here's
right
the,
there.
here's the problem. I don't know their ship name.
It's not a good ship name, though, to be
it
honest.
is not a good shipment. And
Well, hey, it's either
Stua,
Hickstrid or
Stua,
the other
yes.
way around.
Yeah, let's call
I
them
don't want to
Stua.
say. I've always thought it was Stalka. That's not too hard to say. right?
Stalka, my god.
yeah,
Yeah, but then
Yeah,
it comes off
interesting.
very much similar to Stalker, and it's just kind of, do you
Yeah, it
really want that
sounds-
as the ship
It
name?
sounds like a
Yeah.
name of a metal band. I don't know.
Well, it is. What is it? The Vikings.
really wanna go-
Norse.
That's not the-
but another one I think I kinda like in comedy sense is Rough Legs.
mm-hmm.
Is this the
Fair.
official
Yeah.
name?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I like heat legs.
Yeah, Heather
Oh,
and
you
Fish
like
Legs work
Heather
really
Legs
well
too,
together.
They're not bad.
Yeah, but this can be canon now because, well, you know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, there's also Heat Strid. He's not a bad chick.
Yeah, and just to
I
clear
guess
it up,
those
I
shits
do
in the-
like Hextred fine, but there's a lot of stuff about it that kind of annoys me, and I talked
He's
more
listened to
about
me
it.
talk too much about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
talked about this. No
Wolf
need
has
to read.
swayed his opinion. I haven't worked.
Yeah.
I haven't worked hard enough. Or maybe
I
I,
don't
worked
know.
a little too well. I pushed him
Maybe.
away.
I still think if you have to go to the ship, it's 2 to 5, definitely. I mean, there's literally nothing problematic about that one. So, I mean, if you need something to ship, that's the one. Mm-hmm.
Well, there might be
Actually,
someone out there who
wait,
disagrees with you
people.
how it
We
can't be
forgot
problematic.
about the best one. Fish legs and meat lug. How did we forget that?
Oh God,
We
why?
pretty much created this ship.
We Ice, if you haven't watched the fish legs character episode, we caused
I think I may
a lot
have.
of controversy.
Yeah.
We hate each other for that. We hate ourselves for that one.
That's
Yeah.
between you and HC.
Yeah, it was just me and HC, and we somehow managed to scare away.
You know, I
Probably
think it was the first episode where
was
where
just-
Voyager didn't record with us, and yeah, that's the point we found out we need a third co-caster
we definitely
in
need a
order to. I'm just
Episode
kidding.
Going completely
I'm just
crazy.
kidding. Rush, you're awesome most of the time.
Yeah, until you fire me again.
I didn't do that. Okay.
You were fired. This the first time.
It's a running joke.
He's been fired multiple times.
Multiple times.
I've had to work very hard to get him back each time too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
you mean like
With
every
yourself,
show?
Mandy.
At the end of every show, it's like fire and rehiring, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't
Because,
like I don't like your opinion on Hickstrom. You're fired. Okay. Okay. See you next week. Right.
Okay, but does anyone have another question?
Any questions? Any more questions to us, Ice? I mean, if we say
Questions to you.
we could go on for a lot longer,
Yeah.
but we also could just point you back to previous episodes that we may have answered.
That's true.
So.
That's true. Let's see. What are kind of the questions? Well,
While
I
you're
mean,
thinking, to our listeners, go back and watch previous episodes if there's any questions you want answered about us.
Yeah, some people are chatting right now that have they haven't asked any questions, but they've brought up certain things.
Oh, is this on the
decided to.
live chat?
Yes.
If someone is
Oh.
going to ask me why
I
I,
should've
like
gotten that.
Sonic, I don't need a reason.
See, I should have gone on there and answered questions because I didn't know people were asking questions.
Well, yeah. Well, no, they aren't asking questions. They're,
Oh,
they're
okay.
just they're just talking about it. Like when we were talking about fandom,
Truth fly.
somebody actually said that they thought that religion was the first fandom.
Yeah, that's the reference I was
Religion.
making.
What?
But yeah, I mean, it's not
Holy
it's
shit.
not like the same.
A lot of our
Dynamic.
listeners are
Right.
actually in European, so it's getting pretty late for them.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So
I mean,
Anyway,
I
any
have
more questions?
one question that we talked about a little bit, which is we talked about favorite characters. What do you think is the most controversial character? The entire show.
most controversial?
Most controversial.
Oh man.
Can you repeat that? You got cut off for a second.
Oh,
He
the
asked what
most
the most controversial.
controversial-
Most controversial
character.
character.
Yeah.
Who do you think it is?
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I would say Valka because of
Oh, really?
all of the different views on her.
Mhm.
There are people who like her or people who don't like her. I mean, well,
Yeah.
okay, that's a stupid statement right there. But
It's kind of a very hard line, but there's definitely some.
yeah,
There's definitely people who kind of take different stances with Valka. Like, for me, I'll admit that I take a stance of I'm not quite in the Valka camp. In the Valka
Yeah.
camp, I'm not firmly like, oh, she's a great character. I enjoy her a lot because there's a lot of issues I take with how she was introduced and the fact that Hiccup really never called her out like he does his father and everyone else in the village. And rightfully so. In some cases, and that's one of the issues I take with her and why I'm not exactly completely behind her. So yeah, I could definitely say Valka's probably a higher one, definitely one of the higher
I-
characters.
it's for me. Yeah, so for me, it's between Valka and Astrid, and the reason is purely to their what they write them about, and just
Uh-huh.
the views on. It's hard to say for Astrid because her
Uh,
when they say like the Hickstrid, they like talk about them together. But if they say like I don't like Hickstrid, they really never talk about just Astrid. But for Wolf, like he will talk about it because he thinks Astrid should blah blah blah, which that's kind of controversy, right? Is the talk about? It's basically do they talk about them, and so that's why I'm saying it's different. It's a close tie between Falcon and Astra for me that I think is the most controversial character.
Well, to me, it's also a tie between Heather and Drago.
Drago.
Heather
Interesting.
because
That's unusual, right?
Hey, that's my OTP.
no.
Heather is the true evil.
Do we have
No.
anybody who's willing to draw out there?
Okay, back on topic. Heather, I believe, I say she is controversial in season 1 in Riders more than Rest of the Edge because she was introduced in that one episode. She was pretty much the Mary Sue, as Wolf called her, and I agree with him on that. And because they also kind of gave the impression that maybe she's more of a love interest to Hiccup at one point, and people did get the idea from the. I don't know. I don't really remember how it went, but I remember there was a bit of a fuss about her. And in terms of Drago, because he's a villain essentially, he's the main villain of How to Train Your Dragon 2. But when you really think about it, the first movie didn't really have a villain.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it did.
Wolf disagrees. He had a very clever "the Vikings are the villain." I remember
Although-
that.
Well,
although-
it wasn't necessarily Vikings. It was more so kind of
The ideals.
change or the
Yeah,
kind
but
of
there wasn't
unwillingness to change.
there
I forget
wasn't
how I put it. I said it really well in that
He
episode.
was very philosophical there.
Philosophical.
point is it wasn't one guy.
Yeah.
It was
That's true.
that represents what Hiccup was fighting against. It was just what Hiccup was fighting against. In this one, we have an actual villain,
And that's
flesh and
one of the
blood in
reasons.
some sense. So people
That's
did
one of the reasons why I want to
have-
read the screenplay for the second one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
that first version, I don't know. I mean, there are interesting parallels, at least from what I've heard,
yeah.
between that
Yeah.
version and
Yeah, but the main point
First
I say this that Drago is controversial is because when you really think about it, people did brought up the fact that maybe the opinion more that How to Train Your Dragon may not really need a villain.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a difference, right? But true.
So that's my two controversial characters, I think.
Yeah, and I can see where you would say Heather because
Yeah.
a lot of the on the Tumblr like the HTTY the How to Train Your Dragon confessions like a lot of them are just like I don't think Heather should be a dragon rider, and there's a lot
love
of
those.
stuff between that. Yeah, there's a lot of controversy.
Yeah,
I've heard
although
for
really I
that
don't get
topic.
the problem because we know she's not going to be one of the riders in How
Yeah,
to Train
right,
Your Dragon 2,
exactly,
so
so-
what's the point? Like, get over it.
Yeah,
Can you do an episode where you do a dramatic reading of those confessions? Because there are some
Oh,
I
there are
can.
some
Do I have a
gems.
video to link to you of a dramatic reading I did of a
That'd be a
hilarious?
lot of fun.
I'll add it to the list. We'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, there are
We
some
talked about
gems in there.
fanfiction, so why not?
Yeah. hmm
Okay, so now that we close this, I think we can close the episode unless any of you want to add anything.
No, I mean, great interview.
Are there
Great
other
guess.
questions in the?
The guy who
live
wrote the questions
chat?
is awesome, isn't he?
Mhm.
No, still no chat questions.
Okay.
Yeah. One just
Well-
shouted fan fiction.
Okay. I mean,
Okay, so
fanfiction, good or
that's been
bad?
all for this episode of the Berkcast. We hope you enjoyed. Ice, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you for
It was
inviting me.
fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun having you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to talk to any of us, you can find us at Ice's site, the Berk Grapevine. We are
Yep.
all there. You can
Uh-huh.
also find us on Tumblr as Berkcast Team, and on Twitter we are Berkcast, capital B, capital C. So until next time, I was HC.
I was Rush.
I've been Wolf.
I'm IcelandicEel.
We hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.